Hi again, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the SPI Vidcast. In this episode, we will be taking a look at Keramats and shrines and the role that they play in the spirituality of society in Singapore and Malaysia. Now, because of the potentially diversive nature of this particular vidcast, we have to set a disclaimer that this vidcast is not intended to find the truth behind any religion. It doesn't seek to downplay or criticize any religion at all. It just seeks to do several things which I shall tell you about, okay? Alright, at the end of this video, you will be able to distinguish between Muslim Keramats and shrines, the word shrines, as used in Hindu, Buddhist and Taoist religions. You will be able to describe the role of Keramats that they play in the religious culture of Muslims in Singapore and Malaysia. You'll be able to explain the reasons behind the continued practice of Keramat worship. You'll be able to state the functions of shrines in Buddhist, Taoist and Hindu cultures, and you'll be able to describe the differences between the Malaysian and Singaporean local Taoist deity, Dr Cohn. Alright, let's begin with a very basic understanding of the word Keramat. Keramats are often said to be the Malay word for shrine, but in practice, Keramats and shrines serve two different functions. Alright? According to Muslim and Malay belief, Keramats are the graves of holy Islamic men. These men have been venerated to the level of sainthood during their lives, and therefore their religiosity lives on even after death. People will come to ask for favors at their graves, therefore. There is some level of controversy regarding this practice, however. Okay, this must be stated very clearly at the onset. Sunni Muslims do not recognize saints. However, Sufi Islam venerates saints. Okay, saints have a hierarchy in Sufi Islam. And asking for favors from deceased human souls was also practiced in Malay animism, most notably during ancestor worship. Now, we are very familiar with Taoist ancestor worship, but Malay animistic ancestor worship has been not a popular subject because there are not that many Malay animists anymore. Malay animism has been subsumed or rather syncretized into some Islamic cultures in Singapore and Malaysia, so there really isn't any Malay animist per se anymore. Therefore, Malays in Singapore and Malaysia who continue the practice of venerating saints and asking for favors from graves can be said to be influenced by Sufi Islam or by Malay animism. Okay, they could be very well Sunni Muslims in their daily lives, but their Muslim culture that they practice, whether it be in their family or in their circle of friends, tends to support these particular elements of venerating saints and ancestor worship, such that these practices continue. Now, here is a famous Keramat in Singapore. This is called the Keramat Habib Noor. Who is Habib Noor? Sayyid Habib Noor bin Muhammad al-Habsh was alive from 1788 to 1866. And he was a religious man who was said to be a descendant of the Prophet Muhammad. Was said to be, okay? This is a claim which I'm not going to prove or disprove. I'm just relating to you what the tale is, what the backstory is. Now, Muslims come to his grave to ask for favors and to get blessings. Now, non-Muslims also visit his grave. According to Leonard and Joyce, students from the Wee Kim Wee School of Communication, NTU, they noted that once there was a man from Chechnya who traveled all the way just to meditate at the Keramat. And they also said that a Thai Buddhist monk is also a regular devotee of this particular Keramat as well. Many devotees who go to this Keramat year after year report stories about Habib coming to them in dreams and speaking to them while they were awake, or appearing to them in the clouds, and many other manifestations. Another famous Keramat in Singapore is Keramat Iskandar Shah. Reliable sources indicate that this particular Iskandar Shah is Parameswara. Parameswara was the last king of Singapore before it fell to the Indonesian Majapahit Empire. So Parameswara was alive from 1344 to 1414. Alright. So why is his grave named as Iskandar Shah? Why is it called Keramat Iskandar Shah instead of Keramat Parameswara? Now, Iskandar Shah was a name, or a title rather, that was adopted by many local kings as an homage to Alexander the Great. Okay, Sufi culture, when Sufi Islam came to this part of the world, it brought a certain culture that adopting great names would bestow upon one the power of the great person. And Sufi Islam also focused a lot on miracles, and Alexander the Great was seen to be a person who could perform miracles. So therefore, by adopting his name, Iskandar Shah, many local kings in Singapore, Malaysia, and the Riau Islands of what is now Indonesia believed that it would bestow upon them powers to also perform miracles. Now, as I approached this particular Keramat, a flock of pigeons suddenly swooped down as if to protect the Keramat. All right, I was taken aback. However, my research indicates that the pigeons have been there around this Keramat for decades, if not for centuries. Many other people who have been here before me report seeing these pigeons as well in and around the Keramat area. Now, currently, NPark regulates this Keramat. So paying respects and asking for favors in the traditional way by giving offerings, burning incense is no longer allowed. Now, Hindu, Buddhist, and Taoist shrines, on the other hand, are functionally different from Keramats. Okay, shrines serve several purposes. Okay, first is to pray for souls. Okay, second purpose is to act as a mini temple for a deity who is not senior enough to warrant a temple of his own. All right. Now, shrines in and of themselves are not graves. They could have a grave there, but they don't. It's not a requirement for a grave to be there. Unlike a Keramat has to be a grave. All right. Here are some pictures of shrines which are used to pray for souls. You can see that this particular one is a shrine dedicated to the souls of lost children. This was provided to me by Professor Liu Kai-Kyun from NTU, and this was put up during the Hungry Ghost Month in 2016 at Everton Street. As you can see, the offerings are toys and sweets that children normally would like. Another example of a shrine to pray for souls is this shrine in the baby cemetery. All right. These two shrines in the baby cemetery, as you can see. The baby cemetery is a cemetery in Lim Chu Kang, and practically no one visits the cemetery because, you see, in the 1970s and early 1980s, stillborns and late abortions were actually buried. They were actually buried instead of being treated as medical waste. When they're buried, you can see that the tombstones here are very small. They have no names, no faces. They are just, late abortions or stillborns. So no one visits them. So who cares for their souls? The caretaker of the cemetery would care for their souls. And these shrines are dedicated to the shrines in the baby cemetery. You can see that there are orbs. Did you notice that? The orbs in and around the baby cemetery? Now, what this means is that there is a level of energy manifestation in the baby cemetery. It's not strong enough to take on any other shape except the visual shape of an orb like this. However, it is strong enough to appear to us on camera. The other use for shrines is as a mini temple. What do you mean by a mini temple? Well, we all are familiar with the temple of the tree god in Toa Payoh. Here are some pictures of it. This tree god, apparently they say that there is a god that resides in this particular banyan tree. And because they recognize that there is some level of power, some level of spiritual authority to be given to this particular god, they've erected a shrine in honor of the god. This also applies to the shrines of Dr Cohn. Dr Cohn is a Taoist deity who is a Malay person. Here is a picture of a Dr Cohn worshipped in Singapore. I took this picture somewhere deep in Clementi, beside the old Jurong Railway KTM line. All right, as you can see, Datuk Kong wears a plekat sarong as well as carries a kris and has a Malay headgear on his head. Datuk Kong, the offerings to Datuk Kong cannot be in the form of pork or alcohol because Datuk Kong is Muslim. So those who worship Datuk Kong do not offer him alcohol or pork the way they would for other deities. Okay, so just as a point of comparison, here is a screenshot that I took of a Datuk Kong shrine in Malaysia. How did I get this? I was playing Pokemon Go at Woodlands Waterfront, and GPS mistakenly took me all the way across the border into Malaysia. And I noticed that one of the Pokestops that I landed near was a Datuk Kong shrine. You'd notice in this picture that it says White Datuk Kong. Why is there a color associated with this Datuk Kong, whereby the one in Singapore, there is no indication of color? The reason is because in Singapore, Datuk Kong is just one deity, Datuk Kong, that's it. In Malaysia, there are 9 levels or in the ranking system of Datuk Kong. Okay, the levels are Datuk Ali, okay, Black Datuk, Tiger Datuk, Green Datuk, Yellow Datuk, White Datuk, Mute Datuk. This particular Datuk cannot speak. All right, Red Datuk and Young Datuk. All right, so they have 9 levels of this. All right, now I'm thinking of actually expanding this part into another vidcast because I have recently discovered that these 9 Datuks in Datuk Kong worship are actually the same 9 Datuks that Malays use to get into trances during their Silat performances. So wait for that episode, all right? Finally, let's take a look at an illustrative example where we can see an example of a Keramat of the grave of a holy Muslim man and a shrine which is melded into one. On Kusu Island, there are these 3 graves, all right? These 3 graves collectively have been deified as Datuk Kong. All right, so what are these 3 graves? The grave of Datuk Said Abdul Rahman, the grave of his mother Datuk Nenek Galib, and the grave of his daughter Sharifah Fatima. Okay, these 3 Muslims were very pious and they were buried on Kusu Island. There's a lot of stories about Kusu Island, about this Malay person and a Chinese person who got shipwrecked, and a tortoise, rather a turtle, brought them over to the island, right? Yeah, so this is in relation to that particular fable, all right? So these 3 Muslim people were buried on Kusu Island and they have been deified into Datuk Kong, all right? Now, the same practices of Datuk Kong worship apply here, as well as the same practices of Keramat worship apply here as well. Thank you very much for the new subscribers who have been subscribing to us, and we hope to see more of you subscribing to this channel, because this channel is not just about chasing ghosts. It's also about spiritual anthropology and paranormal scientific analysis. As I always say, think scientifically, but look beyond science. Thank you and bye-bye.